When I think of movies that have a sole purpose of being purely for entertainment and encapsulates the phrase guilty pleasure to a T, there's nothing quite on par with the Fast and Furious franchise. It's a set of movies that have been so all over the place that keeping on track with the storyline from start to finish is about as easy as mustering the courage to consume the next Marvel project. And it's just made a reputation of being that franchise that you see the new entry of every few years, not really for the storyline, but just as a way to, sit back with your friends, turn off the deeper analysis part of your brain, and just not give a single about anything else for a solid 2 hours or so. But with that being said, Fast and Furious is also one of those franchises that, like so many others, has very much kept producing new stories way after it probably should have ended. The franchise swayed in, a completely different direction to what it began with, starting off with a simple story about an undercover agent who's investigating the speed racing happening in the sea, to now a point where there's a new CGI explosion every 5 minutes, and they actually went to space. I genuinely think that with the passing of Paul Walker, which brought Furious 7 to a beautiful close, it could have been a really great send-off for the franchise, but when the money comes, it comes big. And so I can't exactly blame them for wanting to carry on. And besides, who's going to remind me of the importance of family if not Dominic Toretto? Anyway, kind of contrary to everything I just said, I was honestly quite looking forward to Fast X for two main reasons. One, it was taking us back to Rio and the events of Fast 5, which in my opinion is by far the best movie in the franchise. And two, I was seeing the film in 4DX. So what is 4DX, your curious mind may query? Basically, your seats move in real time in accordance to what's happening on screen, along with there being smoke, smells, and sprays of water whenever a corresponding event happens in the movie. And so, sorry if I get a bit, overexcited at any point with this review, because the experience was just great, and I highly recommend it to all of you watching. And with a movie like Fast X, it's just almost too perfect to miss out on. If any of you are wondering, it's at Cineworld for like 18 quid. But anyway, enough of the mumbo jumbo, because let's get into the movie. So Fast X is the latest and 11th entry to the Fast and Furious franchise, or the 10th if you minus Hobbs and Shaw, which has very little relevance to the main franchise storyline, but still fun movie anyway, and follows the Fast family once again as they embark on a journey of confronting what's probably their most lethal opponent yet. Fueled by revenge, this terrifying threat emerges from the shadows of the past to shatter Dom's world and destroy everything, including those that he loves. So I'm not going to beat around the bush and act like I took this movie seriously for even a second. So let me just say right now that before we get into the nitty gritty, that very much like I did with the Super Mario Bros. Movie, I'm going to view this movie through the lens of my 6-year-old self. And in doing so, I will say that the movie was a really good time. I see plenty of people online saying how this movie's, stupid and goofy and too over the top. Oh, it's stupid, it doesn't make any sense. And I simply just ask you, what did you expect? Listen, when you simply take this movie for what it is, which is, an over-the-top, overly exaggerated, and just illogical action on a huge scale, then it pretty much smashes it out of the park on every frontier. The action itself, for one thing, is absolutely ludicrous, but it's also highly engaging and just amusing to watch. This movie travels the world, taking us from the Toretto household, to chasing down a giant bomb rolling through the streets of Rome, to speed racing and explosions in Portugal, and even flashbacks to the events of Fast 5, and it's just a damn good time to watch. The sequence in Rome especially is one of my favourites, as the team have to find, sporadic and unique ways of communicating with one another, and stopping the bomb from, recreating history, and knows how long it went on for, but it's pure popcorn cinema, and was the first sequence to really establish the power that our enemy has. But before we get on to, evil feminine Aquaman, let's talk about the main characters at play, shall we? So, Dom has always been one of the main characters of the franchise, and since the end of Fast 7 especially, has pretty much led it. And this time around, it's clear that his character had much more on the line, and a lot more to be concerned about when it comes to protecting those that he loves. He has a son now to look out for, and so putting family first has never been more relevant. So after him and his wife are confronted by Cypher, they know that something's not right, and after their mission in Rome goes haywire, Dom basically has to go rogue and find his own path to vengeance while the rest of the crew get scattered across the globe. Letty is arrested, his son is still at home with little to no protection, and he's constantly being tracked down. And this is where we meet Beta Captain I'm sorry, I mean Tess. I'm not sorry. Tess works for the new so-called replacement for Mr. Nobody called Ames, but goes against his orders in order to help Dom and get Letty out of custody. And you know what? While Brie Larson still needs to actually, take some acting classes for once.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Her character is actually not so dislikable, and you can tell that she genuinely wants to help Dom get back to his family and set things right. She's not in the movie a whole lot, mind you, but it just puts into perspective just how bad a job Marvel have done at making her even remotely likable. I mean, the actress herself hasn't done much to help, but still. Speaking of Dom's son Brian though, one of my favourite things about this film was the relationship and bond between him and Jacob. who embark on a mission of their own. Cena just brings the same energy to this role like he does with Peacemaker, and you can tell that he has a lot of fun and enjoys playing more of a goofbally type of character. But when the guy is out driving his car, you know, there's no messing around to be had there. Their scenes together are just some of my favourite of the movie, and that stands true even when compared to Roman and Tej, who are back again obviously with their, you know, tough love relationship, as they work alongside Han and Ramsey, trying to navigate their way back to the rest of the crew. And yeah, they come across Deckard for a brief while, but for those out there who like Hobbs and Shaw, he's only in the film for a brief time. But with that being said, for the time he is on screen, he kicks some ass. Anyway, I think it's time we talk about the new bad guy at play, Dante. Dante's out for revenge after his father was killed during the events of Fast 5. Obviously, like many other movies, goes back to past events to reveal that they've always been involved behind the scenes. He's pissed off to say the least, and seemingly has way more power and resources at his disposal than villains that came before, which, you know, adds much greater stakes to the story, and makes you wonder if the power of family is really enough this time around. And you know, he's an interesting fella. He's got a very outgoing and careless personality, and takes a lot of pride in pushing people to their edge, and then beyond. You can tell the guy's just like a full-on psycho, willing to pretty much do whatever it takes to bring Dom as much pain as possible, regardless of the consequences on others. He also isn't afraid to embrace his feminine side, which personally I couldn't help but interpret as the character trying to, you know, just belittle Dominic as much as possible, rather than trying to, you know, downplay masculinity as a whole, which, yeah, you know, Hollywood tends to do a lot. I guess it's up to interpretation, and I actually thought it added some great humour to the movie. And yeah, Jason Momoa smashed it in the role, and clearly won't be going anywhere, despite Aquaman 2's, you know, guaranteed flop status at the end of the year. Then again, nowadays, the choice between a superhero or the villain of the car franchise, which violates all laws of physics, I'd probably go with the latter, you know. So if you haven't seen Fast X yet and are looking for a crazy, fun, and actually pretty wholesome movie where you can just not give a shit about anything and have a really good time, go see the movie. Because in the light of modern day cinema, movies like this are a warm welcome, honestly. Anyway, thank you for watching the video. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. Won't force you though, of course. And I will see you in the next one very, very soon.